Hi guys, I'm teacher Shannon and welcome to today's lesson. Now I know what some of you are thinking, teacher, why do we have to learn this? It's the present simple, we've learned it before, it even has the word simple in the name. But unfortunately, the present simple has a lot of rules in it, and we often forget to use all of them. So in this lesson, we're just covering the main mistakes or the common mistakes that I see for all levels. Even IELTS students make these mistakes. So make sure to take out your notebook and follow along with these helpful tips to ace the present simple every time you use it. So this is our first common mistake that we always forget to check because it's so small. Sometimes it's only one letter, just a simple S that we have to add to it. If you're talking about something that's a fact or a habit and you're talking in the singular, so he, she, it, Shannon, my finger, anything that there's only one of and it's not yourself, you're not using I, but something else, then you have to add an S, ES, or IES to it. If you're missing that, your subject and your verb, they don't match and your sentence is incorrect. So you will lose marks on any grammar exam or writing assignment. So we want to make sure that we're remembering that tiny little letter, or sometimes a couple of letters or few letters. Always take a second to read over your writing. Now, why do we use S or ES or IES? What's the difference? They're all used with he, she, or it. So how do we know which one to use? Again, welcome to today's first pop quiz. I want to know your spelling rules. Down here you can see I added ends with these letters, or here we have consonant plus Y. What I'd like you to do is fill in these blanks with the missing ending. And then I would like you to change the verbs, these examples, to make them match he, she, or it. So how would you write these verbs for that subject to make a proper present simple sentence? Okay, have you finished? Let's check the answers together. So if a verb ends with S, X, CH, SH, even double S, then we need to add ES. And there's something else that happens when we add ES. So this is an important tip to remember for speaking and pronunciation, because every time you add ES to a verb, you also need to add an extra syllable. So it's not he fixes the car, it's he fixes cars, or she pushes the door, or Shannon teaches English. Teaches, not Shannon teaches English. Okay, let's go to our next one. Ends with Y. So a consonant is everything that's not a vowel. A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. Those are our vowels. But if it's not one of those 5 letters, it's a consonant. We add IES. Now, there's something else that we need to do to it. We can't just stick IES on the end. We actually need to remove the Y and then add I. There's kind of a little bit of a rhyme. Take out the Y, add an I. We're going to remove Y, and then I'll just add my IES. Flies. She flies a plane. We also have vowel plus Y. Now, a vowel and a Y are not the same as a consonant and a Y. I like to think about vowel and Y as best friends. So you cannot separate them because they are always together. We're just gonna add S. If your verb doesn't fit into one of these spelling rules, then just add S. So for example, Shannon drinks coffee. Pretty simple, but again, this is a common mistake that I see happen a lot, especially in our writing. Now let's move on to our second most common mistake, frequency words. How do we use them? Where do we put them? What do we do with them? Frequency has to do with habit. things that happen more than once. So for example, I said that I love coffee. I drink it every day. So another word that I could use is always. I always drink coffee. But if you hate coffee, maybe you never drink it. 0% to my 100%. But what are some other frequency words that can also help to describe habit? I'd like you to fill in these missing blanks. Okay, did you get the same answers as me? I've added usually, often, and sometimes. Now, sometimes can also be used for habits that happen 50% of the time or 30% of the time. And if we want to get even closer to 0, you can add not to usually or often to bring them down here. Now that we have our frequency words, where do we put them in the sentence? And does it change position if I'm using it with a be verb or just a regular verb 1? Well, that's actually why frequency words are so tricky, even at higher levels. We forget where to put them in the sentence. So here we can see that the frequency moves depending on the verb. So for example, if I'm using a be verb, my frequency is after. And if I'm using another verb 1 for the present simple, then my frequency comes before. And this is the same even in a negative sentence. So I'm just gonna add some examples over here. And finally, this is the third most common mistake that we make when using the present simple. And this has to do with frequency words, but instead of using these, we put these frequency phrases at the end of the sentence. So we're still saying how often, but we're using some different vocabulary. So it's a good way to change up what you're saying and add some interest to your writing. So let's look at the end of the sentence with every. Every means once, but repeated. So I drink coffee every day. 1 cup, but every day. If I have 2 cups of coffee, I can't use every. I could say though, I drink coffee twice a day. If it's more than that, then we can say 3 or 4 or 5 times. We need that times added to it. This is what we forget though. We forget and this is important because you need it. If you're using once, twice, 3 times or more to talk about frequency, then you have to add before day, week, month, century, whatever time frame you are using. So don't forget that. So what did we learn today? Well, we talked about present simple in terms of subject and verb and the spelling that goes with it. Then we talked about using frequency words. Where do they go? What are they? And how do we use them? And then we went over the frequency phrases that can be used at the end of the sentence to talk about how often we do something. So try to write an example present simple sentence for each of those 3 points. We want to make sure that we're practicing them so that way it becomes second nature or easier for us to remember in the future. And every time you're doing a writing, or if you're speaking but it's a little bit trickier, I want you to think about these 3 most common mistakes. So that way you can start fixing them. If you have questions about creating questions, then make sure to watch this video, which I'll tag up above. It goes over question words, how we use them, and also how to take general questions and make them more specific. So make sure to follow along with all of these videos and don't forget to subscribe. Every week we're going to be building on what we've learned and it's going to get harder as we go. So use this time to refresh, to take it all in, and to practice your ESL skills. That's all for today, so I'll catch you at our next lesson.